In this video, I will teach you step by step how to apply to study in a Finnish university or University of Applied Sciences using the separate application form through the studyinfo.fi website. What's up guys and welcome back to the channel. If this is the first time we're meeting, my name is Oliver and I'm a master's student in economics at Aalto University in Finland. And on this channel, we talk about education and early career development, specifically here in Finland. So if you are new here, do consider subscribing. So before we start filling the application form itself, there's two things that we need to first discuss. First, when you use a separate application form, you have to fill in a new form for each university or University of Applied Sciences that you want to apply to. Depending on the school and their separate application, there might be a limit to how many programs you can apply to with just one form. In addition, you have to keep in mind that each university and degree program will have different application requirements, and thus the separate application forms for each university might also look slightly different. One more thing, make sure to double check the degree program specific application requirements and the documents that you need to have at the time of application. I actually have a separate video where I go through all of the things that you need to do before you fill in the application form. So if you're still not sure whether you have done everything right, check out this video first and then come back here. Quickly, before I actually start filling out the application form, let me stop for just a second to thank EEST for sponsoring this video. EEST, or the Foundation for Student Housing in the Helsinki region, is a non-profit foundation that rents, builds and maintains student apartments specifically in the Helsinki metropolitan area. I've been living in their apartments throughout my studies, and I really recommend that you apply for one of their almost 10,000 apartments in the Helsinki region. For more information about EEST and their apartments, through the links in the description box below. Alright, so let's jump into the application itself. So first of all, as I've mentioned in my previous videos, when you apply with a separate application, you can find the application form itself either through the studyinfo.fi service or the university application web page. If you choose to look for the application form through the studyinfo.fi website, make sure to filter the results using the filters application period ongoing, language of instruction English, and then choose whether you are looking for a university or a University of Applied Sciences degrees. Anyhow, in my opinion, it's easier to find the relevant application forms directly through the university websites. So in this example, we are going to apply for 2 master's degree programs at Aalto University. On the university application page, navigate to the application form link. In this case, we would go to the heading How to Apply and select Filling in the application form. So when you click the form itself, it will redirect you back to the studyinfo.fi website. So there's quite a lot of happening here in the form. So before we start filling the application, let's look at 2 things. First, make sure to read the application instructions here before you start actually filling anything. Second, the Submit Application button can actually be found here on the top right corner instead of at the bottom of the page. All right, so let's start filling out the application. First, and most importantly, let's first choose the study programs that you are applying to. Again, remember that when you are using a separate application, you can only apply to study programs of one specific school at a time. So let's choose the programs right here. So for this example, I will be applying to study a master's in finance as priority number 1, and then to economics as priority number 2. So do note that many schools have a huge number of programs, so the easiest way to find the right one is to use the search field right here. So I will just search for economics. All right, so we have the master's in finance right here, so let's add that to priority number 1, and then the economics program right here, so let's choose that as well. Next up, and this should be easy enough, let's fill in our names. If you have multiple first names, let's make sure to fill in both of them. Also make sure to fill in your preferred first name, but if you only have one, the form will fill this for you. All right, so third, choose your nationality from the drop-down menu. This is super important to do first because the information you will give next will depend on your nationality. So I'm actually a Finnish national, but for the sake of this example, let's choose United States. Next up, if you have already done your previous degree in Finland, or if you have been residing in Finland before the application, you will most likely have a Finnish personal identity code. However, most of you will not have a Finnish personal ID code, so let's choose no. So this will prompt the form to ask you for a few more personal details, like the time and place of birth, gender, and your passport or national ID number. So while the passport number or national ID number are not required at this stage, filling them out will help with processing your application a bit faster. Next, let's fill in your contact information. So here it's really important that you double check your email address, because this will be the main way of communication for any information about the admission, and if this is incorrect, you might not get relevant and time-sensitive information about the application process. So also make sure to include the area code to your phone number, because this will help the application officials contacting you via phone. Alright, so next, make sure to again first choose your country of residence, because the address information under here will depend on the country that you choose. Again, in this case, I will choose United States. So as you can see, the address information here that I need to provide changed when I changed from Finland to US. After that, choose your native language from Finnish to, for example, English. And more importantly, the preferred language in which you wish to receive information about the application process itself. For most of you guys, this will be, of course, in English. Next, and do take into account that this will depend on the university and the degree program that you apply to, you have to choose whether or not you apply on the admission group 1 or admission group 2. In this case, admission group 2 would be applying based on a bachelor's degree from a University of Applied Sciences in Finland or from a university outside Finland. So we will choose group 2. So after this, check yes or no on whether or not you have completed a general upper secondary education or a vocational qualification, and if yes, in which country. Again, let's choose the United States. Do note, as it is said right here, this will not affect your eligibility, but rather this is filled for statistical purposes. However, regardless of that, this step is still mandatory. Alright, so next up we need to start filling the important information regarding your educational background. First, you need to choose the degree that grants you eligibility to apply for the selected study programs. In this case, I would choose a bachelor's degree completed outside Finland, but if you're applying for a bachelor's degree, you might have to choose a high school or a vocational school diploma completed outside Finland. More importantly, when you actually select any of these options, next you need to fill in the information for the degree or diploma. So I will not fill all of these because they are pretty self-explanatory. However, there are a couple of things that I still want to point out. First, make sure to select the correct degree level from this drop-down menu. Again, in this example, I will choose a lower university degree or a bachelor's degree. However, if you come from the States or, for example, from the UK, I guess this would be an undergraduate degree, which is basically the same thing. Next important thing is the question here about whether or not you have already completed your previous degree. If you have, you simply have to check yes and fill in your graduation date. However, if you have not yet completed your previous degree, you have to check no and then fill in an anticipated graduation date. So why this is so important is because if you apply with an incomplete degree, you have to graduate and send the certified degree certificate to the school you're applying to by a certain date. If you miss this deadline, your application will be discarded as incomplete, so make sure that you are able to graduate and get the documents sent in time. Anyways, those are the two important things to keep in mind about this section here. I'm sure that you're able to fill in the rest of the information by yourself. So after you have filled in the rest of the degree information, you have to upload some attachments. So here, first, you need to upload scanned color copies of your original degree certificate and transcript of records. Also, please take into account that if the certificate and transcript are not either in English, Finnish, or Swedish, you also have to upload official translations. In addition, there's a couple more important details. First, do know that the deadlines for these documents might actually be later than the actual application deadline. Second, all the attachments have to be uploaded in a PDF file format, so please don't upload any Word or, for example, text documents. Third, make sure to name all your attachments in the format that is actually defined in the form itself. Alright, so after you have uploaded these documents, you have an opportunity to also list a second degree if you have one, in addition to the one we listed above. In this case, if I actually had a second bachelor's degree that I wanted to include in the application, I could do it here by basically clicking yes and filling in the same information about the degree that we did previously. Alright, so next, check yes or no to whether or not you have a previous degree from the school that you're actually applying to. After that, we actually have to fill in some study program specific information. In this example, and do note again that these will be different depending on the school and the programs that you apply to, we have to choose which aptitude and language proficiency tests I have done or will do for this application. So if I have already done these tests, for example, the GREs, I have to fill in the test scores and the test identification information so that the school can actually verify my results. Also, depending on the test, you might also have to upload a copy of the official test results. So if you have not yet done the test by the time you fill this application, you have to fill the upcoming test date in order to actually submit the application. This is because, as you can see right here, the deadline for the official test results is actually after the application deadline, which in this example was on January 4th. However, you have to take into account that if the test results are not filled in and received by the school by this deadline, your application will be cancelled. Anyways, next up we need to do the same thing for the language proficiency tests. Again, make sure to fill in the test results and upload a copy of the official test result if one is actually required. So after you have done these, you might need to upload some specific additional attachments required by your study program. So these will depend on the school and the program you apply to, and they might include things like a CV, a letter of recommendation, a motivation letter, a portfolio, or something similar. Again, just make sure to double check that you have everything that you actually need, because if you forget to include a mandatory attachment, your application will be rejected as incomplete. Alright, so finally and super importantly, most universities will ask you whether or not you are liable to pay tuition fees in Finland right here in the form. So if you are not a citizen of a European Union or a European Economic Country, or if you don't have a residence permit in Finland exempting you from tuition fees, choose I do not have any of the above. So when you do this, you must upload a copy of a valid passport or an ID card that has a photo and information about your citizenship. After that, make sure to choose yes, I apply for a study option instructed in English, because this will prompt the form to ask you whether or not you actually want to apply for a scholarship. And this is actually where many separate applications might be a bit different depending on what kind of scholarships are available at each university or University of Applied Sciences. So most, but not all, universities and universities of applied sciences will ask about the scholarships right here in the form, but I also know that some schools do have scholarship programs that you apply to only after you have been admitted to study there. So in those cases, you will actually not have a question about scholarships in the application form. So this is why it's super crucial for you to check when and how to apply for scholarships in your school, because if you are supposed to apply for them through this form and you forget to do it, you actually cannot apply for them afterwards. So please be mindful and make sure to check this information before you submit the application. Anyways, after you have done this, just make sure to check yes on the application terms and the different permissions, and you should be done. Of course, you want to make sure to double check all the information you've just filled in by previewing the application by clicking this button here on the top right corner. If everything is in order and you have already uploaded all the relevant information, you can then go ahead and submit the application by clicking this Submit Application button. However, if you're still missing some parts of the application, you will actually see a number here, and you can actually submit the application only after you have filled each of the steps in the form. Also, do take into account that after you click Submit, you will receive an automatic confirmation email that includes a link to your application form. Using that link, you can edit your application during the application period and upload any additional electronic application documents as long as you're within the document deadlines. Alright, so that's how you apply to study in Finland using the separate application. So do note that the separate application is different from the joint application form, and I will make a separate video about the joint applications in January once the next joint application period opens. So if you are watching this after January 2021, you can actually find that video about joint applications right here. So if you are currently applying or you plan to apply to study in Finland, I recommend that you watch this video and go through this entire playlist where you learn everything you need to know about the Finnish university application process and what to do after you have been admitted to study in Finland. Thanks again for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.